Subscribe to Storylab. Now, let's begin. The sand outside Forward Operating Base Crimson stretched endlessly under the Afghan sun, shimmering like beaten copper. Staff Sergeant Carlton Bauer sat in the communications tent, headphones on, reviewing tactical reports from the previous night's patrol. At 34, Carlton carried himself with the quiet confidence of a man who'd earned every stripe on his sleeve through blood, sweat, and split-second decisions that meant the difference between his men coming home in body bags or on their feet. His phone sat on the desk beside him, the screen dark. He'd been deployed for 4 months now, with 8 more to go. The hardest part wasn't the heat or the constant threat of IEDs or the Taliban fighters who knew every rock and cave in these mountains. The hardest part was being 7,000 miles away from Emma and Jack, his 7-year-old twins. Carlton checked his watch. 1,400 hours here meant it was early morning back in Colorado Springs. Too early to call. He'd try tonight, after their school day ended. He opened his wallet and pulled out a creased photograph. The twins on their 6th birthday. Gap-toothed grins, Emma's blonde hair and pigtails, Jack's buzz cut making him look like a miniature version of Carlton himself. They were holding up a banner that read, "We love you, Daddy." That was before the divorce. Before Alyssa had decided that being a military wife wasn't the life she'd signed up for. Bauer, Corporal Dwayne Reed, stuck his head into the tent. "Captain Hoffman wants to see you. New patrol assignment." Carlton pocketed the photo and followed Reed across the compound. The base was a collection of fortified buildings surrounded by concrete barriers and watchtowers. Humvees rumbled past, kicking up dust. Soldiers moved with purpose, their weapons always within reach. Captain Russ Hoffman looked up from a tactical map when Carlton entered. Hoffman was 42, career military, with a scar running through his left eyebrow courtesy of Fallujah. He respected men who did their jobs without complaint, and Carlton was one of his best. "We've got movement in the Karangal Valley," Hoffman said, pointing to the map. "Intel suggests a supply route. I want you to take your squad, observe and report. No engagement unless necessary. When do we move out?" 2200. Reed, Chapman, Jennings, and Blake are yours. Hoffman paused. "How are things back home, Bauer?" Carlton's jaw tightened slightly. "Fine, sir." "You sure? You seem distracted lately." "Just missing my kids, Captain." "Goes with the territory." Hoffman nodded. "Get some rest before the patrol." Dismissed. Carlton spent the afternoon checking equipment and reviewing maps with his team. Kurt Chapman was the team's marksman, a lanky Texan who could drop a target at 800 meters. Roy Jennings handled communications, young but sharp. Terry Blake was their medic and the oldest of the group at 39, steady as a rock under fire. And Reed, despite being the youngest at 23, had proven himself fearless in a firefight. As evening approached, Carlton retreated to his bunk. The small quarters he shared with 3 other NCOs was stifling hot, even with the fan running. He pulled out his phone, seeing he had Wi-Fi signal. A message notification showed. His heart lifted. The twins. But when he opened the messaging app, it wasn't a text. It was a voice message sent 2 hours ago. The timestamp showed 0600 Colorado time. Odd. They should have been getting ready for school. Carlton pressed play, bringing the phone to his ear. What he heard made his blood turn to ice. Heavy breathing. Then Emma's whisper, terrified. "Daddy, we're hiding. We're in the closet in Jack's room." Jack's voice joined, equally frightened. "Mom's new husband is mad. He's really mad." Emma again. "He has his bell, Daddy. The one with the big buckle." He said, "You're too far away to hear us scream." Carlton's hand began to shake. Footsteps on the recording. Heavy, deliberate. Then a man's voice, slurred and angry. "Were you little shits? You think you can disrespect me in my own house?" The closet door slamming open. Emma's scream. Jack yelling no. "Please." The sound of leather cracking against flesh. Once. Twice. 3 times. Both children screaming. Crying. Calling for him. "Daddy. Daddy, please." Then the message ended. Carlton sat frozen, the phone trembling in his grip. He played it again. And again. Each scream carved into him like a blade. His children. His babies. Being beaten while they called for him. He looked at the time. The message was 2 hours old. What had happened since? Were they okay? Were they still being hurt? His hands moved on autopilot, calling Alyssa's number. It rang 4 times, then went to voicemail. He tried again. Same result. He sent a text. What the hell is happening? The kid sent me a message. Call me now. No response. Carlton called his ex-wife's sister, Kelly Haynes. She answered on the 3rd ring, her voice groggy. Carlton? It's like 5:30 in the morning. Where's Alyssa? Where are my kids? What? I don't know. Probably at home, asleep like normal people. They're not safe, Kelly. I just got a voice message. Her husband was beating them. I need you to go check on him right now. Kelly's tone shifted immediately. Oh my God. Okay. I'm getting dressed. I'll drive over there right now and call you back. Hurry. Carlton paced his small bunk area like a caged animal. 20 minutes passed, like 20 hours. When his phone finally rang, he answered before the first ring finished. They're fine, Kelly said, but her voice was tight. I mean, they're okay now. They're with Alyssa at my house. But Carlton, they have bruises. On their backs, their arms. Emma has a welt on her face. The tent seemed to spin. Put Alyssa on. She doesn't want to talk to you right now. I don't give a damn what she wants. Put her on the phone, or I swear to God. Carlton. Now. A pause, then shuffling. Alyssa's voice came through, defensive and brittle. Carlton, what happened to my children? His voice was deadly calm, the kind of calm that preceded violence. It was an accident. Things got out of hand. Philip had been drinking, and the kids were being difficult. An accident? Difficult. Carlton's shout made several soldiers in nearby bunks look over. He lowered his voice to a harsh whisper. That son of a bitch beat our kids with a belt while they hid in a closet crying for me. You don't understand. You're never here. I'm dealing with this alone. You chose that, Alyssa. You chose to divorce me. You chose to marry that piece of shit. But our kids didn't choose any of this. Philip's going through a rough time. He lost his job last month, and he's been stressed. I don't care if he's stressed. He touches my children again, and stressed won't begin to cover what he'll be going through. Is that a threat? It's a promise. Alyssa's voice turned cold. You're 7,000 miles away, Carlton. You made your choice too. The army was always more important than us. I'm coming home. No, you're not. You have 8 months left on your deployment. Even if you wanted to, they won't let you. Watch me. Carlton ended the call. His breathing was ragged, his hands clenched in a fist so tight his knuckles had gone white. Around him, the other soldiers were giving him space, recognizing a man on the edge. Reed approached cautiously. Sarge, you good? No. Carlton stood. I need to see Captain Hoffman. Now. The 10-minute walk to Captain Hoffman's quarters felt like an eternity. Reed had offered to come along, but Carlton needed to do this himself. His mind raced through possibilities, scenarios, legalities. None of it mattered. His children had been hurt. Everything else was just noise. Hoffman answered the door in PT gear, clearly having been interrupted during his evening workout. He took one look at Carlton's face and stepped aside. Come in. The captain's quarters were sparse. A bunk, a desk covered in paperwork, photos of his own family on the wall. Hoffman poured 2 fingers of whiskey into a metal cup and handed it to Carlton. Talk. Carlton pulled out his phone with shaking hands. My ex-wife remarried 6 months ago. Guy named Philip Vasquez. I didn't like him from the start. Had that look, you know? The kind of man who smiles with his mouth, but not his eyes. But Alyssa made her choice, and I was deploying, so I kept my mouth shut. He pulled up the voice message. This came in 2 hours ago. He handed the phone to Hoffman and watched the captain's expression darken as he listened. Hoffman played it twice, his jaw muscles working. Jesus Christ, Hoffman said quietly. When the sounds of the children screaming filled the small room, his hand clenched around the phone. Where are the kids now? With their aunt, bruised but alive. Carlton's voice broke slightly on the last word. Sir, I need emergency leave. I need to get home and protect my children. Hoffman set the phone down carefully. Emergency leave takes time to process. Minimum 3 days, probably more. And even then, it's usually only granted for deaths or extreme medical emergencies. My kids being beaten isn't extreme enough. For me it is. For the brass. Hoffman shook his head. They'll want police reports, CPS involvement, documentation. By the time you navigate the bureaucracy, you could be waiting a week or more. Carlton felt something break inside him. So, I'm just supposed to sit here, wait for the next voice message. Maybe one where my kids aren't crying anymore because they're dead. Hoffman was quiet for a long moment, then stood and grabbed his uniform jacket. Come with me. Where are we going? To see General Howard. The general's office was in the main command building, behind 2 security checkpoints and a secretary who clearly didn't appreciate being disturbed at 2,100 hours. Major General Vincent Howard was 56, with iron gray hair and a chest full of ribbons that told the story of a man who'd fought in every major conflict of the past 3 decades. He was legendary for 2 things: his tactical brilliance and his absolute loyalty to his soldiers. Hoffman knocked once and entered without waiting for permission. General, sorry to interrupt your evening, but you need to hear this. Howard looked up from a stack of intelligence reports, his reading glasses perched on his nose. This better be good, Hoffman. It's not good, sir. It's about as bad as it gets. Hoffman gestured to Carlton. Staff Sergeant Bauer received a voice message from his children today. They're 7 years old, sir. Twins. The general's attention sharpened. He set down his pen. Go on. Carlton stepped forward and handed over his phone. Sir, this message came in at 0600 Colorado time. My children were hiding in a closet while their stepfather threatened them. Then he found them and beat them with his belt. Howard took the phone without a word and played the message. His expression didn't change, but Carlton saw his free hand curl into a fist on the desk. The screams filled the office. When it ended, Howard played it again. Finally, he set the phone down and removed his glasses, rubbing the bridge of his nose. Have you confirmed the children's current status? Yes, sir. They're with their aunt. They have visible bruises and welts. And the stepfather? Still at the house, as far as I know. My ex-wife is making excuses for him. Says he was stressed, drunk, that the kids were being difficult. Howard stood and walked to the window overlooking the base. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then, I have 3 grandchildren. 2 of them are about the same age as your twins. If I heard a recording like that. He turned back to Carlton. What do you need, Sergeant? Carlton straightened. Permission to return to Colorado, sir. Emergency leave to deal with this situation and ensure my children's safety. Emergency leave will take too long. The system is designed to prevent abuse, which means it moves at a glacial pace even for legitimate cases. Howard walked back to his desk and picked up the phone, dialing a number from memory. This is General Howard. I need JAG on the line. Now. 3 minutes later, the base's Judge Advocate General, Colonel Alfredo Lynch, arrived looking disheveled and confused. Howard played him the recording without preamble. Lynch's face went pale. Sir, if you're asking what I think you're asking, I'm asking what options we have to get Sergeant Bauer home to protect his children within the next 24 hours. Legally, emergency leave is the only. I didn't ask what's legal, Colonel. I asked what options we have. Lynch swallowed hard. Sir, you could authorize it. As the commanding officer of this operation, you have discretion in deployment assignments. You could reassign Sergeant Bauer to stateside duty effective immediately for operational readiness purposes. What about his squad? Hoffman interjected. They have a patrol scheduled for 2200. I'll lead it myself, Howard said. Or better yet, cancel it and have another unit cover. Chapman can serve as acting squad leader. He turned to Lynch. Draft the orders. I want Bauer on the next transport out of here. Sir, that's not until 0400 tomorrow. It goes to Bagram first, then Germany, then... Too slow. Howard picked up the phone again. Give me air operations. When someone answered, he didn't waste time with pleasantries. I need a helicopter fueled and ready to fly to Bagram within the hour. Priority medical evacuation authorization. General, we don't have a priority medical case. I'm declaring one. Staff Sergeant Bauer has suffered a severe psychological trauma that requires immediate stateside treatment. Get the bird ready. He hung up and looked at Carlton. You'll fly to Bagram tonight. I'll have orders waiting there to get you on the first military transport to Germany, then to the States. With luck, you'll be in Colorado within 36 hours. Sir, Carlton's throat tightened. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. Howard's eyes were hard as flint. When you get there, you handle this by the book. You call the police, you file for emergency custody, you go through legal channels. Do you understand me, Sergeant? Carlton hesitated a fraction too long. Howard leaned forward. I'm giving you the means to protect your children. I'm not giving you permission to commit murder. Am I clear? Crystal clear, sir. Good. Now get your gear together. As Carlton turned to leave, Howard added, Bauer, that son of a bitch laid hands on your kids. You make sure he understands that was the worst mistake of his life. But you do it smart. I don't want to see you in Leavenworth. Yes, sir. Carlton left the office in a daze. Hoffman walked beside him, quiet until they were outside in the Afghan night. The stars overhead were brilliant in the clear desert air, indifferent to the suffering of humans below. You need help packing? Hoffman asked. No, sir. Don't have much. Then I'll walk you back. They walked in silence for a bit before Hoffman spoke again. You know, when I heard that recording, I have a daughter. She's 15 now. If anyone ever touched her like that. He shook his head. I get it, Bauer. Whatever you're feeling right now, I get it. What would you do, Captain? If you were me? Hoffman was quiet for a long moment. I want to kill him. Want to wrap my hands around his throat and watch the light go out of his eyes. But I'd know that wouldn't help my daughter. She need her father, not a father in prison. He stopped and turned to Carlton. You're a good soldier and a good father. Don't let rage turn you into something your kids would be afraid of. Carlton nodded, but in his mind, he could still hear Emma and Jack screaming his name. Back at his bunk, word had already spread. Reed, Chapman, Jennings, and Blake were waiting. Chapman held out a duffel bag. Pack your stuff, Sarge. Heard you're heading home. Yeah. Carlton took the bag. It felt surreal, like this was happening to someone else. What are you going to do? Blake asked. The medic's usually jovial face was serious. Whatever I have to. Reed stepped forward. Look, Sarge, I know it's not my place, but don't do anything stupid. Your kids need you around. I appreciate the concern, Corporal. I mean it. Guy like that. He's not worth you throwing away your career. Carlton looked at his team. Young men he'd trained, fought beside, bled with. Good men. If it was your kids, Reed, what would you do? Reed didn't hesitate. I'd bury him so deep they'd never find a body. Then you understand why I can't make any promises. The helicopter that arrived to take Carlton to Bagram was a Black Hawk, piloted by Chief Warrant Officer Drew Ritter, a veteran with over 2,000 flight hours. Ritter helped Carlton aboard and handed him a headset. Heard about your situation, Ritter said over the intercom as they lifted off. I've got kids too. We'll get you there fast. The flight took 90 minutes. The landscape below a patchwork of darkness broken by scattered lights. Carlton stared out the window, his mind not on Afghanistan, but on Colorado. On a house he'd never seen, where a man he'd only met twice had hurt his children. Philip Vasquez, 31 years old, worked in sales until recently. Carlton had met him briefly during the custody exchange, a handshake and fake smile. The man had a weakness in his grip and wouldn't maintain eye contact. Carlton had dismissed him as harmless, a temporary fixture in Alyssa's life who'd be gone within a year. He'd been wrong. At Bagram, Colonel Lynch was waiting with orders in hand. You're on AC 17, leaving in 2 hours for Ramstein. From there, you'll transfer to another flight to Peterson Air Force Base in Colorado Springs. Total travel time, approximately 28 hours with layovers. 28 hours? Carlton's stomach dropped. That's more than a day. Anything could happen. It's the fastest route available, Sergeant. I've already had personnel at Peterson arrange ground transport to get you home. Lynch handed him a satellite phone. This is for emergencies only. You can make calls during layovers. Carlton took the phone and his orders. Thank you, Colonel. Bauer. Lynch's expression softened slightly. I have 2 sons. If I were in your position, well, just be smart about it. It seemed everyone had advice. Be smart. Don't do anything stupid. Handle it legally. But laws hadn't protected his children when they were screaming for him. The flight to Germany was interminable. Carlton sat in the cavernous cargo hold of the C-17, surrounded by pallets of equipment and a handful of other soldiers rotating home. He tried to sleep, but couldn't. Every time he closed his eyes, he heard Emma and Jack crying. During the layover at Ramstein, he used the satellite phone to call Kelly. "The kids are still with me," she reported. "Alyssa went back to the house yesterday. She's talking about couples counseling, about how Philip promised it would never happen again. She's going to take them back there? I'm trying to convince her not to, but Carlton, I can't keep them indefinitely. Legally, I have no rights. She's their mother. I'll be there in less than 24 hours. Don't let her take them anywhere until I arrive. I'll do my best." The second leg of the flight was even worse than the first. Carlton's mind raced through scenarios, plans, contingencies. He thought about Philip Vasquez, a man who got drunk and beat children, a coward who threatened kids by telling them their father was too far away to help. But Carlton was coming, and when he arrived, Philip Vasquez was going to learn that distance was temporary, but consequences were permanent. The C-17 touched down at Peterson Air Force Base at 0300 local time. Carlton hadn't slept in over 40 hours, running on adrenaline and black coffee. A corporal from base operations met him at the plane. "Sergeant Bauer? I have a vehicle waiting for you, sir." "Where are we headed?" Carlton gave him Kelly's address. The drive through Colorado Springs in the pre-dawn darkness felt surreal after months in Afghanistan. Clean streets. No blast barriers. People sleeping peacefully in their beds, unaware of the violence humans were capable of inflicting on each other. They pulled up to a modest 2-story house in a quiet neighborhood. "Lights are on inside. You need me to wait, Sergeant?" the corporal asked. "No, thank you." Carlton grabbed his duffel and walked to the front door. Before he could knock, it opened. Kelly stood there in a robe, her eyes red-rimmed. "They're asleep," she whispered. "Upstairs, second door on the left." Carlton moved past her and took the stairs 2 at a time. The door was slightly ajar. He pushed it open slowly. Emma and Jack were curled together in a double bed, Emma's arm protectively around her brother. In the dim light from the hallway, Carlton could see the bruises on Jack's arms, a dark welt on Emma's cheek. His breath caught. He knelt beside the bed and gently touched Emma's hair. She stirred, her eyes opening slowly. For a moment, she stared at him in confusion. Then her eyes widened. "Daddy, hey baby girl, I'm here." Emma's face crumpled and she launched herself at him, wrapping her arms around his neck and sobbing into his shoulder. The movement woke Jack, who looked around in confusion before seeing Carlton. "Dad!" Jack scrambled over and joined the embrace. Carlton held both his children, feeling their small bodies shake with tears. "It's okay. You're safe now. I'm here and I'm not leaving." "You came," Emma said between sobs. "We called for you and you came. Always, baby. Always." Carlton pulled back slightly to look at them in a better light. The bruises were even worse than he'd imagined. The welt on Emma's face was from the belt buckle. Jack had marks on his back visible through his thin pajama shirt. Rage, cold and focused, settled over Carlton like a familiar uniform. "Did he hurt you anywhere else?" he asked gently. Jack shook his head. "Just hit us with the belt. A lot. How many times?" Emma's voice was small. "I don't know. 10? More." Carlton closed his eyes briefly, then pulled them close again. "I need you both to be very brave. Tomorrow, we're going to talk to some people, police officers, maybe a doctor. They're going to ask you questions about what happened. I need you to tell them the truth. Okay? All of it. Is Philip going to get in trouble?" Jack asked. "Yes." "Good," Emma said with a vehemence that broke Carlton's heart. "I hate him." "I know, sweetheart. I know." He stayed with them until they fell back asleep, then went downstairs where Kelly was making coffee. "I took pictures," she said quietly, sliding her phone across the table, "of all the bruises, dated and time-stamped. I thought you might need them." Carlton looked through the photos, his expression carved from stone. "Thank you. What are you going to do?" "First thing in the morning, I'm filing for emergency custody and calling the police. I want Philip arrested and charged. And if that doesn't work," Carlton looked at her steadily, "then I'll handle it another way." Kelly bit her lip. "Carlton, I know you're angry." "I'm not angry." His voice was utterly calm. "Anger is hot. What I'm feeling is cold. Calculated. That man hurt my children. He threatened them. He made them scream for me while he beat them. There's a reckoning coming, Kelly. The only question is whether it happens inside the law or outside it. Please don't do anything that'll take you away from Emma and Jack. I won't. But Philip Vasquez is going to pay for what he did, one way or another. As the sun rose over Colorado Springs, Carlton sat at Kelly's kitchen table, drinking coffee and planning his next move. He'd been in combat, had faced enemies who wanted him dead, but he'd never felt anything like the cold determination that filled him now. This was different. This was personal. And Philip Vasquez had made the worst mistake of his life. The Colorado Springs Police Department's Crimes Against Children unit occupied a nondescript office building that smelled like old coffee and stress. Detective Ramona Byers looked every one of her 43 years as she sat across from Carlton in an interview room, reviewing the photos on Kelly's phone. "These are from 2 days ago?" Byers asked, her voice carefully neutral. "Yes, ma'am. My ex-wife's sister took them after she brought the children to her house." Byers set down the phone and pulled out a notepad. "And you were deployed overseas when the incident occurred?" "Afghanistan, yes. My children sent me a voice message during the attack. I still have it." He played the recording for what felt like the 100th time. Byers' jaw tightened as Emma and Jack's screams filled the small room. "Jesus," she muttered. "Okay, I'm going to need to interview the children directly. Is that acceptable to you? Whatever you need to do to protect them. Mr. Bauer. Sergeant Bauer. Sergeant Bauer." She corrected herself. "I want to be straight with you. Cases like this, they're complicated. Philip Vasquez is the children's stepfather. He lives with their mother. There are certain disciplinary rights that..." "Disciplinary rights?" Carlton's voice went dangerously quiet. He beat 7-year-olds with a belt hard enough to leave bruises for days, while they hid in a closet, while they cried for help. "I understand your frustration. Do you have children, Detective?" Byers paused. "Yes, 2 daughters." "Then you understand this isn't frustration. This is a father trying to keep his children safe from a man who hurt them." Byers sighed and rubbed her temples. "Look, I'm on your side here, but I need you to understand how this works. I'll interview the children with a counselor present. We'll document everything. Then I'll go talk to Mr. Vasquez and your ex-wife. If the evidence supports criminal charges, I'll submit it to the DA's office. But that process takes time." "How much time?" "Days, maybe weeks. And in the meantime, Philip Vasquez walks around free. My ex-wife could take the kids back to that house. I can request a temporary protection order, but that also takes time. A judge has to review it, and with the weekend coming up." She shook her head. "Earliest would be Monday. It's Thursday. You're telling me I have to wait 4 days before my children are legally protected? I'm telling you I'll do everything I can to expedite this, but I can't circumvent the process." Carlton stood. "Then do what you can. I'll be filing for emergency custody this afternoon." "That's your right. Just, Sergeant Bauer." Byers stood as well, her expression sympathetic. "Don't do anything stupid. I've seen this before. Fathers who think they can handle things their own way. It never ends well." Carlton met her eyes. "I'm a United States Army Ranger, Detective. When I do something, it's not stupid. It's strategic." He left the police station and drove to a lawyer's office that Kelly had recommended. Patricia Lancaster was a family law attorney in her 50s with a reputation for winning custody battles. She listened to Carlton's story, reviewed the photos and recording, and shook her head. "This is egregious," she said. "Any judge would grant emergency custody based on this evidence. The problem is getting in front of judge." Detective Byers said the same thing. "How long? In a true emergency, we could get a hearing within 72 hours. But courts are backed up, and it's technically not an emergency anymore since the children are safe with their aunt. So we wait. I'll file the petition today and push for the earliest possible hearing. I'll also file for a protection order prohibiting Philip Vasquez from having any contact with the children." "But Carlton," she leaned forward, "you need to understand that your ex-wife has rights too. She's their mother. Unless we can prove she's complicit in the abuse or unable to protect them." She made excuses for him, said he was stressed, that the kids were being difficult. That's not great, but it's also not enough to terminate her parental rights. Best case scenario, you get primary custody and she gets supervised visitation. Fine. Whatever keeps them away from him. Lancaster drafted the paperwork while Carlton waited. By the time he left her office, it was early afternoon. He picked up the twins from Kelly's house and took them to their favorite diner, a 50s-themed place that served enormous sundaes. Emma picked at her fries while Jack drew on his placemat with crayons. Neither child seemed to have much appetite. "Are we going back to Mom's house?" Emma asked quietly. "Not unless you want to," Carlton said. "And even then, not until Philip is gone." "Where are we going to live?" "I'm working on that. Might need to find a new place since I gave up the apartment when I deployed, but we'll figure it out together." Jack looked up. "Are you staying? Or do you have to go back to Afghanistan?" The question hit Carlton hard. He hadn't even thought about his deployment status. "I'm on leave right now. I'll need to talk to my commanding officer about what happens next." "But you might leave again." Emma's eyes filled with tears. Carlton reached across the table and took both their hands. "Listen to me, both of you. I made a mistake. I thought the army was important, that serving my country meant I was doing something good for you guys. But I was wrong. You are the most important thing in my life. Not the army, not Afghanistan, not anything else. Just you two. And I will never, ever let anyone hurt you again. Promise?" Jack asked. "I promise." They finished their meal in relative quiet. Then Carlton took them shopping for new clothes and supplies. At a toy store, he let them each pick out something. Emma chose art supplies, Jack a new video game. Small comforts, but he needed to see them smile. That evening, Carlton called General Howard on the satellite phone Lynch had given him. "Bauer." Howard's voice came through clearly despite the distance. "Status report." "Sir, I'm with my children. They're safe. I filed police reports and emergency custody paperwork." "Good. And the stepfather?" "Still walking free. The system's moving too slow." Howard was quiet for a moment. "You remember what I told you about handling this smart?" "Yes, sir. I'm in it. You've got a career ahead of you if you don't throw it away." "With respect, sir, I don't care about my career right now. I care about my kids. I understand that. But they need their father, not a father in prison." "I know." Carlton paused. "Sir, I need to know, what's my deployment status?" "I've extended your emergency leave to 30 days. After that, we'll need to reevaluate based on the legal situation. If you get custody and the kids are stable, you might be able to finish your deployment. If not," Howard sighed, "we'll cross that bridge when we come to it." "Thank you, sir." "Don't thank me. Just be smart." After the kids went to sleep that night, Carlton sat in Kelly's kitchen with his laptop, doing research. Philip Vasquez hadn't been hard to find on social media. The man posted frequently, pictures of his car, his gym workouts, his opinions on sports and politics. Recent posts showed him with Alyssa, captions about being a family man and blessed. Nothing about the children he'd beaten. Carlton dug deeper, finding Philip's employment history. He'd been fired from 3 sales jobs in the past 5 years, always for performance issues. Translation: he couldn't close deals and blamed everyone else. His current unemployment seemed to be a sore spot. Posts about the economy, about how companies didn't value talent anymore. A pattern emerged. Philip was a narcissist, someone who needed to feel powerful and important. When reality didn't match that self-image, he lashed out. And the easiest targets were children. Carlton's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Sarge, it's Chapman. Heard you made it stateside. You need anything, you call. Whole squad's got your back." Another text followed from Reed. "Serious offer, boss. You need help handling business. I'm on leave in 2 weeks. Say the word." Carlton stared at the messages. His squad was offering to help him do something that couldn't be said explicitly. These were men who'd stacked bodies in Fallujah and Kandahar, who understood that sometimes justice came from the barrel of a gun, not a courtroom. He texted back, "Appreciate it. We'll let you know." But even as he sent it, he knew he couldn't involve his men. This was his fight, his responsibility. Dragging them into it would only spread the consequences. Friday morning brought news from Detective Byers. Philip Vasquez had been brought in for questioning and released after 2 hours. No charges filed yet, pending review by the DA. "What did he say?" Carlton asked over the phone. He admitted to disciplining the children, but claimed it wasn't excessive. Said they'd been disrespectful, and he was trying to establish boundaries as their stepfather. Did he admit to using a belt? Yes, but maintained it was appropriate corporal punishment. Carlton's grip on the phone tightened. In Colorado, you can't leave marks like that on a child and call it appropriate. I know. I've recommended charges for child abuse. But the DA's office is backed up, and frankly, they tend to be conservative on cases involving step-parents and discipline. They'll want ironclad proof that it crossed the line. The bruises aren't proof, they're evidence. But Philip's lawyer will argue they're the result of reasonable discipline that went slightly too far, not intentional abuse. First offense, no prior reports, stepfather trying to establish authority in a blended family. Buyer's side. I've seen these cases get pled down to anger management classes and probation. That's not good enough. I agree, but it might be what we get. Carlton ended the call and sat staring at the wall. The system was failing. He could feel it happening in real time. The bureaucracy, the technicalities, the lawyers who'd find ways to minimize what Philip had done. His phone rang. "Alyssa, I heard you filed for custody," she said without preamble, her voice tight with anger. "You're damn right I did. You can't just swoop in and take my children, Carlton. Our children. And I can when their stepfather beats them while you make excuses. It was one incident. Philip feels terrible about it. He's been crying, apologizing. I don't care if he's crying blood, Alyssa. He hurt our kids. They were being disrespectful. You weren't there. You don't know how hard it's been. I know Emma has a welt on her face from his belt buckle. I know Jack has bruises all over his back. I know they were terrified enough to hide in a closet and send me a message begging for help." Alyssa was quiet for a moment. When she spoke again, her voice was softer but still defensive. "Philip's going to therapy. Anger management. He's really trying to change. Good for him. He can do that from a distance from my children. Our children need stability. They need their mother. Then leave him. Choose your kids over your husband. It's not that simple." "Yes, it is. It's exactly that simple. I love him, Carlton." Those 4 words hung in the air between them. Carlton felt something inside him go cold and still. You love a man who beat your children. He made a mistake. No, you're making a mistake. You're choosing an abuser over Emma and Jack. And when the judge sees that, you're going to lose custody. Not because of me, but because of you. He hung up before she could respond. The custody hearing was scheduled for Monday morning. 3 more days. 3 days for Philip to potentially contact the kids, to intimidate them, to prepare his defense. 3 days for lawyers to spin narratives and judges to weigh technicalities. Carlton couldn't wait 3 days. That evening, after the twins were asleep, he called Captain Hoffman on the satellite phone. "Bauer, how are things?" "Complicated, sir. The legal system's moving slow. The stepfather's walking free. That's not uncommon in these situations. Frustrating, but expected. I need advice, Captain. Off the record." Hoffman was quiet for a long moment. "Go ahead. If you were in my position and you knew the system was going to fail, what would you do?" "On the record, I'd tell you to trust the process. Work with the lawyers. Let justice take its course." "And off the record?" "Off the record?" Hoffman's voice went hard. "I'd make sure the son of a bitch understood that touching my kids was a mistake he'd never forget. But I'd be smart about it. No permanent damage that could be traced back to me. Nothing that would put me in prison and away from my daughter. Just a conversation. The kind that makes a man reconsider his life choices. A conversation with clear consequences if the behavior continues. You understand what I'm saying?" "Yes, sir. I do." "Good. Just remember, your kids need you free and present. Don't let rage make you stupid." Carlton spent Saturday watching Philip's house from a distance, learning his patterns. The man left twice, once for the gym at 0900, once to a bar at 1700. Both times, Alyssa's car remained in the driveway. Sunday afternoon, Carlton called Philip's cell phone. The number had been in Alyssa's phone, which Kelly had accessed and shared. Philip answered on the third ring. "Yeah. This is Carlton Bauer." A pause. "Ben, what do you want?" "We need to talk. In person." "I don't think that's a good idea. My lawyer said." "I don't care what your lawyer said. You and are going to have a conversation about what happened to my children. You can either meet me somewhere neutral, or I can come to you. Your choice." Philip's voice took on a defensive edge. Look, man, I know you're upset, but this is between me and Alyssa. No, this is between you and me. Because those are my kids you hurt. I was disciplining them. They were being disrespectful, and someone needed to. Memorial Park, tomorrow night, 2,100 hours. There's a pavilion near the eastern entrance. Be there. And if I'm not, Carlton's voice went flat and cold. Then I'll find you. And you won't like how that conversation goes. He hung up before Philip could respond. Monday evening arrived with a clear sky and dropping temperatures. Carlton wore civilian clothes, jeans, a dark jacket, boots. He arrived at Memorial Park at 20:30 and did a reconnaissance of the area. The park was largely empty at this hour, just a few joggers finishing evening runs. The pavilion was isolated, far from the parking lot and main paths. Good. At 20:55, a silver sedan pulled into the parking lot. Philip Vasquez got out, looking around nervously. He was shorter than Carlton had remembered, maybe 5'9", with a soft build that came from gym selfies rather than real training. He wore a designer jacket and expensive sneakers, the uniform of a man trying to project success he didn't have. Carlton stepped out of the shadows near the pavilion. Vasquez. Philip jumped slightly, then tried to cover it with bravado. Jesus, you scared me. You know this is crazy, right? We shouldn't be meeting like this. Sit down. Carlton gestured to the picnic table. Look, man, I get that you're mad, but sit down. Something in Carlton's tone made Philip comply. He sat on the bench, and Carlton sat across from him, maintaining eye contact. Let me be very clear about something, Carlton said quietly. I spent the last 4 months in Afghanistan hunting men who wanted to kill American soldiers. I've been shot at, blown up, and stabbed. I've watched friends die. I've killed people who needed killing. Do you understand what I'm telling you? Philip swallowed hard. That you're a tough guy? I get it. No, I'm telling you that I've looked evil in the eye and destroyed it. And right now, when I look at you, I see the same thing. You're a coward who beats children. You're weak, pathetic, the kind of man who needs to hurt people smaller than him to feel powerful. That's not. I made a mistake, okay? I lost my temper. It won't happen again. Carlton leaned forward. You're right. It won't. Because you're never going to be near my children again. That's not your decision. I'm married to their mother. Your marriage is over. You just don't know it yet. Alyssa's going to leave you. The custody hearing is tomorrow. And when the judge hears what you did, sees the evidence, you'll be lucky if you're not facing criminal charges. Philip's face flushed. You can't prove anything. It's my word against some kids who were probably exaggerating. The words died in his throat as Carlton's hand shot across the table, gripping Philip's wrist with crushing force. Philip yelped in pain. You want to finish that sentence? Carlton asked, his voice barely above a whisper. You want to tell me my children were exaggerating about you beating them with a belt? Let go of me. Philip tried to pull away, but Carlton's grip was iron. I have a recording, Philip, your voice, threatening them. Their screams. Every second of what you did. The police have it. The judge will hear it. And when you're sitting in a courtroom, listening to my 7-year-old daughter describe how you made her hide in a closet, how she cried for me while you hurt her. Carlton leaned closer. That's when you'll understand that your life, as you knew it, is over. He released Philip's wrist. The man pulled back, cradling his arm. You assaulted me, Philip said, his voice shaking with a mixture of fear and anger. I'll tell the police. Tell them what? That you came to a dark park at night to meet your stepchildren's father? That you felt threatened by a conversation? Carlton smiled without warmth. Go ahead. File a report. I'd love to see you try. Philip stood up, backing away. You're crazy. Stay away from me and Alyssa. No, you stay away from my children. Because if I ever hear that you've been near them, said anything to them, even looked at them, this conversation will seem pleasant in comparison. Is that a threat? Carlton stood as well, and Philip involuntarily took another step back. It's a promise. I'm a soldier, Philip. I've been trained to neutralize threats. And right now, you are a threat to my children. The only question is whether I handle you through the legal system or through other means. You can't touch me. There are laws. Laws didn't protect Emma and Jack when they were screaming for me. Laws didn't stop you from beating them. So don't talk to me about laws. Carlton's expression was carved from stone. You have one chance to walk away from this. Leave Alyssa. Leave Colorado. Disappear. Because if you don't, I will dedicate every waking moment to destroying you. I will find every skeleton in your closet, every secret you're hiding, every person you've wronged, and I will burn your life to the ground. Philip's bravado had completely crumbled. He was pale, sweating despite the cool evening. I can't just leave. I have a life here. You had a life. You threw it away when you decided to hurt my kids. Carlton stepped closer, and Philip bumped against the table behind him. I'm giving you a gift, Philip. I'm giving you a chance to run before I really come after you. Most men don't get that. This isn't fair. Fair. Carlton's laugh was harsh. My children hiding in a closet wasn't fair. Them being beaten while they cried for help wasn't fair. So don't talk to me about fair. He turned and walked away, leaving Philip standing alone in the pavilion. As Carlton reached the parking lot, he heard Philip call out, "I'm not scared of you." Carlton stopped and looked back. You should be. He drove back to Kelly's house, his hands steady on the wheel. The confrontation had been necessary, establishing fear, making Philip understand the consequences. But it was just the first step. The real move was yet to come. The custody hearing took place in a stark courtroom that smelled of old wood and judicial starch. Judge Constance Keenan presided, a woman in her early 60s with sharp eyes and a reputation for cutting through bullshit. Carlton sat with his attorney, Patricia Lancaster, while Alyssa sat across the aisle with Philip and their lawyer, a slick-looking man named Vincent Howard Jr. No relation to the general, unfortunately. The hearing lasted 3 hours. Detective Byers testified about the investigation. The photos of the children's injuries entered as evidence. The voice recording played in open court, Emma and Jack's screams echoing off the walls. Carlton watched Philip's face go pale, watched Alyssa wipe away tears. When it was time for Emma and Jack to testify, the judge interviewed them in chambers with only the lawyers present. Carlton waited outside, pacing, until they emerged. Emma's eyes were red, but her shoulders were straight. Jack held her hand tightly. Finally, Judge Keenan rendered her decision. Based on the evidence presented, I'm granting emergency temporary custody to Carlton Bauer. The children will reside with him pending a full custody evaluation. Alyssa Davis Vasquez will have supervised visitation twice weekly, supervised by a court-appointed monitor. She turned her sharp gaze on Philip. As for you, Mr. Vasquez, I'm issuing a protection order. You're to have no contact with Emma and Jack Bauer, directly or indirectly. Violation of this order will result in immediate arrest. Additionally, I'm referring this case to the district attorney for criminal prosecution. This court finds credible evidence of child abuse. Philip stood up. Your Honor, this is ridiculous. I'm their stepfather. You were their stepfather. You are now a defendant in a criminal case. Sit down, Mr. Vasquez. Carlton felt something loosen in his chest. Not satisfaction, exactly. The judge's order was just paper, after all. But it was a start. Outside the courthouse, Alyssa approached him while Philip sulked near their car. Can I talk to the kids? She asked, her voice small. The judge said supervised visitation. Through the court. Please, Carlton. They're my babies. Then you should have protected them. He turned to go, then stopped. You can still fix this, Alyssa. Leave him. Get your own place. Show the court you choose your kids. And maybe, eventually, we can work out shared custody. I can't just abandon my husband. Then you're abandoning your children. Carlton walked away before she could respond. Over the next 2 weeks, Carlton established a routine with the twins. He rented a small house near their school, enrolled them in counseling, attended their parent-teacher conferences. He helped with homework, made dinner, read bedtime stories. Simple things. Normal things. Things he should have been doing all along. The supervised visits with Alyssa were awkward and painful. She'd show up at the family services office, spend 2 hours with Emma and Jack under a monitor's watchful eye, then leave in tears when time was up. Philip never came. Detective Byers called with an update. The DA was pressing charges. 2 counts of child abuse. Philip would be arraigned in 3 weeks. What's the likely outcome? Carlton asked. If he's convicted, anywhere from probation to 2 years. Realistically, since it's a first offense and he's got a good lawyer, he'll probably plead down to a suspended sentence and mandatory counseling. That's it. No jail time. It's a misdemeanor charge, Sergeant, and the system's clogged. They'll want to plea it out. Carlton thanked her and hung up. As he'd suspected, the system was failing. Philip would get a slap on the wrist, maybe some therapy sessions he'd bullshit his way through. In 6 months or a year, he'd be back to his life, free to hurt someone else's kids. That was unacceptable. Carlton called Captain Hoffman. "Sir, I need to extend my leave. How are things? I have temporary custody. Criminal charges are pending, but I can't deploy right now." Hoffman was quiet. "I'll talk to the general. We can probably get you reassigned stateside, maybe recruiting duty or training. But Bauer, you know that means your Ranger career is effectively over, right? You won't be going back to combat operations." Carlton looked at Emma and Jack playing in the living room. "I know, sir, and I'm okay with that." "All right, I'll make it happen. You take care of those kids." "Yes, sir." "And Captain, thank you for everything. Don't mention it. Just whatever you're planning, be smart about it." "Always, sir." Carlton hung up and returned to his research on Philip Vasquez. He'd been digging deeper, using skills learned in intelligence gathering. Financial records obtained through a private investigator showed Philip had maxed out 3 credit cards and had a gambling problem. He owed money to several bookies. More interesting were the social media patterns. Philip had recently joined several online forums about men's rights and grievances against women. His posts were full of rage, blaming Alyssa for his legal problems, blaming Carlton for stealing his family. A pattern of escalation. A man losing control. Dangerous. Carlton set up monitoring software on Philip's social media. Technically illegal, but he didn't care. Over the course of a week, the posts got worse. Threats, thinly veiled. References to taking back what's mine. Talk about how the system was rigged against men like him. Then, 3 weeks after the custody hearing, a post that made Carlton's blood run cold. Sometimes you have to take matters into your own hands. Sometimes the only way to fix a broken system is to break it yourself. Stay tuned. Carlton screenshot the post and called Detective Byers. She agreed it was concerning, but said there was nothing actionable unless Philip made a specific threat. That night, Carlton's phone rang at 0200. "Kelly." Her voice panicked. "Carlton, Alyssa called me. Philip's missing. He left their apartment 8 hours ago and hasn't come back. His phone's going straight to voicemail." Carlton's mind went into combat mode, assessing threats and scenarios. "Where are you?" "At home." "Why?" "Lock your doors. Don't answer for anyone. I'm calling the police." He dialed Detective Byers and explained the situation. She promised to put out a bolo, be on the lookout for Philip's vehicle. Carlton checked on the twins, both sleeping peacefully, then armed himself. He had a Glock 19 he'd kept from his Army days, legally registered and properly stored. He loaded it and settled into a chair facing the front door, keeping watch. At 0400, his phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "You took everything from me. Now I take everything from you." Carlton immediately called Byers. "He just threatened me." "Where are you?" "Home with my kids. Send a patrol car now." "Already done. Car should be there in 5 minutes." Carlton moved to the window, watching the street. In the darkness, he saw movement. A figure walking up the sidewalk, purposeful and direct. Philip Vasquez. He was carrying something. Even in the dim streetlight, Carlton could make out the shape. A baseball bat. Carlton moved fast, checking the door locks, then positioning himself in the hallway between the front entrance and the bedrooms where Emma and Jack slept. Philip reached the front door and pounded on it. "Carlton, I know you're in there. Come out and face me like a man." "Philip, the police are on their way. Leave now." "Fuck the police. You ruined my life. You took my wife. You turned her against me. You got me arrested." Another pound on the door. "I'm going to make you pay. Think about what you're doing. You violate that protection order. You add terroristic threats to your charges." "I don't care." The pounding got harder. "You're going to watch your kids suffer like you made me suffer." That was it. The explicit threat Carlton needed. He called 911, keeping the line open, then moved to the door. Philip, I'm armed. If you break into this house, I will defend my children. I'm not scared of you anymore. You think your military training makes you tough? I'll show you tough. The sound of breaking glass. Philip had smashed the window beside the door. His arm reached through, fumbling for the deadbolt. Carlton had seconds to make a decision. He could wait for the police. Let them arrest Philip, add breaking and entering to his charges. It was the legal way, the smart way. But Philip had threatened his children, had come to his home in the middle of the night, armed, with clear intent to harm. And Carlton was done waiting for the system to protect his family. He pulled open the door just as Philip got the lock turned. The sudden movement caught Philip off balance, and Carlton grabbed the bat with one hand while driving his other fist into Philip's solar plexus. The air rushed out of Philip in a whoosh. The bat clattered to the ground. Carlton followed with a knee to Philip's midsection, folding him in half, then swept his legs out from under him. Philip hit the porch hard, the impact knocking his head against the wooden boards. Carlton could have stopped there, could have held Philip down and waited for the police. But he thought about Emma's welt, Jack's bruises, the screams on that voice message. And he kept going. A sharp elbow to the back of Philip's neck, precise and controlled. Enough force to stun, but not kill. Philip groaned, trying to crawl away. Carlton grabbed him by the collar and hauled him back, slamming him against the porch railing. You came to my house, Carlton said quietly, his voice deadly calm. You threatened my children. Again. Please. I didn't mean. Yes, you did. You absolutely meant it. You drove here planning violence, planning to hurt them. Philip was crying now, blood running from his nose. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You're sorry you lost. You're sorry you're weak. Carlton's grip tightened. But you're not sorry you hurt them. You'd do it again if you thought you could get away with it. Sirens in the distance, getting closer. Carlton had maybe a minute before the police arrived. 60 seconds to make a decision that would define everything that came next. He thought about the general's words. Don't let rage make you stupid. He thought about his squad's offer to help. Say the word. He thought about his children, sleeping inside, safe because he was there to protect them. And he made his choice. Listen very carefully, Carlton said, his voice low enough that only Philip could hear. You're going to jail tonight. And when you get out, you're going to leave Colorado. You're going to leave Alyssa. You're going to disappear and never come back. What if I don't? Carlton pulled a knife from his boot, a combat blade, 7 inches of Damascus steel. He held it where Philip could see it, the streetlight glinting off the metal. Then I'll find you. And next time, the police won't arrive in time. The squad cars screeched to a stop in front of the house. Officers poured out, weapons drawn. On the ground, both of you. Now, Carlton carefully set down the knife and raised his hands, moving slowly away from Philip. My name is Staff Sergeant Carlton Bauer. This is my residence. That man is Philip Vasquez. He's under a protection order. He broke my window and threatened my children. I defended my home. 2 officers moved in to secure Philip, who was sobbing and bleeding. 2 others kept weapons on Carlton until they could verify his story. Detective Byers arrived 20 minutes later, looking exhausted and annoyed. She examined the broken window, listened to Carlton's account, reviewed the threatening text message. This is pretty cut and dry, she said. He violated the protection order, made explicit threats, broke into your home with a weapon. Self-defense is going to be easy to establish. What about him? Philip? Oh, he's going to jail. Violating a protection order, terroristic threatening, breaking and entering, assault with a weapon. He's looking at serious time now. No plea deal. The DA's going to want to make an example. Carlton felt no satisfaction in that. Just a cold, practical certainty that Philip wouldn't be a threat anymore. What about my knife? He asked. Byers raised an eyebrow. What knife? The one I had on the porch. I didn't see any knife, Sergeant. Must have gotten lost in the confusion. These things happen. She turned away to direct her officers, and Carlton understood. Byers was giving him a pass, recognizing that he'd defended his home and family within reasonable limits. Inside, Emma and Jack had slept through the whole thing. Carlton watched them for a long time, then finally allowed himself to sit down and breathe. It was over. Philip would go to jail. Alyssa would have to choose between defending an abuser and salvaging her relationship with her children. The system, slow and imperfect as it was, would grind forward. And Carlton would be there to protect Emma and Jack. Always. The arraignment 3 days later was anticlimactic. Philip, sporting 2 black eyes and a broken nose from his fall on the porch, pleaded not guilty through his lawyer. But the evidence was overwhelming. The judge set bail at $50,000, money Philip didn't have. He'd stay in jail until trial. Carlton attended every hearing, every proceeding. He wanted Philip to see him, to understand that he hadn't forgotten, that he never would. 6 weeks later, facing overwhelming evidence and the prospect of years in prison, Philip took a plea deal. 3 years in state prison, 5 years probation after release, permanent restraining order from the children, and mandatory anger management and addiction counseling. Alyssa filed for divorce 2 days later. The full custody evaluation took 4 months, during which Carlton proved himself a capable and devoted father. Emma and Jack flourished under his care. Their grades improved, their counselor reported significant progress in dealing with trauma, and they smiled more. When Judge Keenan issued her final ruling, granting Carlton full legal and physical custody, with Alyssa receiving supervised visitation every other weekend, Carlton felt a weight lift that he hadn't known he was carrying. "Mr. Bauer," the judge said, "you have shown remarkable dedication to your children's well-being. This court is confident that they will thrive in your care." "Thank you, Your Honor." Outside the courthouse, Alyssa approached him one last time. She looked smaller, somehow diminished. The confident woman he'd married a decade ago was gone, replaced by someone hollowed out by regret. Can I see them?" she asked. "Outside of the official visits." Carlton considered. "You're their mother. They love you. But Alyssa, you have to understand, you failed them when they needed you most. You chose Philip over them. That's something they're going to remember for the rest of their lives." I know I did wrong. I want to make it right." "Then prove it. Not with words, but with actions. Show up for the visitations. Be present. Be their mom, not Philip's defender. And maybe, eventually, we can talk about more flexible arrangements." She nodded, tears streaming down her face. "Thank you." That evening, Carlton took Emma and Jack to their favorite pizza place to celebrate. They sat in a booth, the twins talking over each other about their day at school, their upcoming class field trip, a new friend Jack had made. Normal kid things. Happy things. "Dad," Emma said suddenly, "are you going to stay with us now? Forever?" Carlton reached across the table and took both their hands. "Yes, I'm done with deployments. I'm taking a new job at Fort Carson, training new soldiers. I'll be home every night. Promise?" Jack asked. "I promise. You two are my mission now. The most important mission I'll ever have." Emma smiled, that gap-toothed grin he'd missed so much in Afghanistan. "Good, because we need you. I need you too, sweetheart. Both of you." As they finished their pizza and headed home, Carlton thought about the journey that had brought them here. The voice message that had changed everything. The helicopter ride from Afghanistan. The confrontation with Philip. The legal battles and the violence and the fear. All of it had been worth it, because his children were safe. They were happy. They were his. And Philip Vasquez, sitting in a prison cell, had learned the hard way that distance was temporary, but a father's love was permanent. Later that night, after the twins were asleep, Carlton sat on the porch of their new house and called General Howard. "Bauer, how'd the hearing go?" "Full custody, sir. It's official. Outstanding. Those kids are lucky to have you. I'm lucky to have them." Carlton paused. "Sir, I wanted to thank you for giving me that helicopter, for trusting me to handle this the right way. You earned that trust, Sergeant. You took a nightmare situation and turned it into a victory for your family. That takes strength, discipline, and love. The Army could use more men like you. I'm staying in, sir. Training duty at Carson. Figure I can teach the next generation while being home for my kids. Smart move." "And Bauer? That conversation you had with Philip, the one where you encouraged him to plead out and accept his punishment. Good work. Saved the taxpayers the cost of a trial." Carlton smiled slightly, understanding what Howard wasn't saying. "Just doing my duty, sir. That's what I like to hear." Take care of yourself, Sergeant. And those kids. Will do, sir. Thank you. Carlton ended the call and sat listening to the night sounds of Colorado. Crickets, distant traffic, a neighbor's dog barking. Peace. Normalcy. Inside, Emma and Jack slept without fear, without hiding in closets, without screaming for help that wouldn't come. Because their father had heard them, had come for them, had kept his promise. And that was worth more than any medal, any rank, any deployment. His children were safe. They were loved. They were home. And so was he. Epilogue. 2 years later, Carlton stood in the backyard of their house, manning the grill at Emma and Jack's 9th birthday party. The yard was full of kids from their school, along with family and friends. Kelly was there with her husband, Detective Byers had stopped by with her daughters, and even Captain Hoffman, now Major Hoffman and stateside himself, had made the drive from Fort Carson. Emma ran up, her face painted like a butterfly. Dad, can we open presents now? After cake, kiddo. Just like every year. She groaned dramatically, but ran back to her friends. Jack was in the middle of a water balloon fight, his laughter carrying across the yard. Alyssa arrived right on time for her scheduled visit, no longer supervised after 18 months of consistent, positive interactions with the children. She'd gotten her own apartment, was working as a dental hygienist, and had been attending therapy. She'd never fully regained what she'd lost, but she was trying. Hey, she said to Carlton, hesitant as always. Hey, the kids will be glad you made it. I wouldn't miss it. She paused. Philip contacted me last week. From prison. Carlton's expression went flat. What did he want? To apologize, he said. To ask if there was any chance. She shook her head. I told him to lose my number. That chapter of my life is closed. Good. Carlton, I know I've said this before, but I'm sorry. For everything. For not protecting them. For choosing wrong. I know you are. And I think Emma and Jack are starting to forgive you. That's what matters. She smiled sadly and went to greet the twins, who shouted Mom, and ran to hug her. Major Hoffman appeared at Carlton's elbow, beer in hand. Hell of a party. Kids wanted the works this year. Petting zoo, face painting, the whole 9 yards. They're good kids. Credit to you. Carlton flipped a burger. They're resilient. Stronger than I gave them credit for. Still, what you did, coming home, fighting for them, that took guts. I just did what any father would do. Hoffman shook his head. No, most fathers would have trusted the system, waited for the lawyers to sort it out. You took action. Made it happen. Sometimes action is the only option. True enough. Hoffman raised his beer. To action. Carlton tapped his bottle against Hoffman's. To action. As the sun set over Colorado Springs, Carlton watched his children play, their laughter a sound he'd once thought he might never hear again. He thought about that voice message, now preserved as evidence in a case file somewhere. He thought about the fear and the rage and the desperate flight from Afghanistan. He thought about Philip Vasquez, who had 2 more years on a sentence and would be deported to Mexico upon release due to an old visa violation the investigation had uncovered. Justice, Carlton had learned, wasn't always swift or perfect, but it was real, and sometimes it needed help arriving. His phone buzzed with a text from Reed, still deployed overseas. Saw the party pics on FB. Kids look happy, boss. You did good. Carlton smiled and typed back. Thanks. Stay safe over there. Another text from Chapman. When you coming back to train us old-timers some new tricks? Next month. Carson's got a new Ranger course I'm helping develop. He pocketed his phone as Emma and Jack ran up, demanding he judge their water balloon throwing contest. He obliged, laughing at their competitive spirits, their determination to win. They were his children. Fierce, brave, loving. And they were safe. That was all that mattered. As the party wound down and guests departed, Carlton helped the twins clean up, then got them ready for bed. They were exhausted but happy, full of cake and presents and the pure joy of being 9 years old. Dad, Jack said as Carlton tucked him in. This was the best birthday ever. Yeah, because you were here. Carlton felt his throat tighten. I'll always be here, buddy. That's a promise. I know. You keep your promises. In the next room, Emma called out, Dad. Story time. Carlton read them their favorite book, one about a knight who went on a quest to rescue his family from a dragon. When he finished, Emma was already asleep, but Jack was watching him with serious eyes. Dad, that dragon in the story, was Philip kind of like that? Carlton chose his words carefully. Philip made bad choices. He hurt people, but he's gone now, and he can't hurt anyone anymore. Because you stopped him. Because we all stopped him. You and Emma were brave enough to call for help. Your aunt helped. The police helped. The judge helped. But you came home, from really far away, even though it was dangerous. Carlton smoothed Jack's hair. You and your sister are the most important people in the world to me. I'll always come when you need me. Always. Like a superhero. Like a dad. Jack smiled and closed his eyes. That's better than a superhero. Carlton sat with them until both children were deeply asleep, their breathing soft and even. Then he went downstairs, poured himself a drink, and sat on the porch looking at the stars. Somewhere in Afghanistan, soldiers were still fighting, still making sacrifices, still being heroes in the traditional sense. But Carlton had found his own kind of heroism, not in combat or medals or glory, in being present, in keeping promises, in protecting the innocent and making sure justice was served. He pulled out his wallet and looked at that old photo of the twins on their 6th birthday, holding their "We Love You, Daddy" banner. He had a new photo now, from tonight. Emma and Jack blowing out candles, their faces lit with joy and hope and the secure knowledge that they were loved. Carlton smiled and put both photos back in his wallet, side by side. 2 different moments. 2 different versions of himself. The soldier who'd left and the father who'd returned. He preferred the father. Tomorrow, he'd start his new training assignment. He'd teach young rangers the skills they'd need to survive and protect. He'd be good at it because he understood now what they were really fighting for. Not countries or policies or strategic objectives. Family. Home. The people who needed them. That was worth any sacrifice. Carlton finished his drink and went inside, locking the door behind him. He checked the windows, set the alarm, and did a final walkthrough of the house. Old habits from too many deployments. But this wasn't a patrol or a mission. This was home, and he was exactly where he needed to be. This is where our story comes to an end. Share your thoughts in the comments section. Thanks for your precious time. If you enjoyed this story, then please make sure you subscribe to this channel. That would help me a lot. Click on the video you see on the screen, and I will see you there.